Hey, it's Mr. Wilson. Today we're going to talk about asset and file management, the 3 levels of Final Cut Pro, and more, so let's go. First of all, let's take a look at the 3 levels of Final Cut: libraries, events, and projects. This is a library and is designated by this 4-star icon. A library contains everything you will do on Final Cut and will have multiple events and projects. Each of you will eventually have your own library with your name on at least one of the drives in our rooms. You will never delete that library and you will never make another library on that drive. All your work on a specific computer will be done in your library. In a Final Cut library, you can have as many events as you need, which is designated by this star icon. You will make a new event for each project you work on. As you can see, there are many events for projects that will be familiar to Mr. Wilson students. And the events hold all the assets you are using. And assets, by the way, mean all the video, still images, music, sound effects, anything that you use in your project. They will all be here in the event window, as well as your project. The project icon has this clapperboard design at the top, and if you don't know what the clapperboard is, it's one of these things.
Take 1, marker.
Your project is your actual timeline and the video down here that you will edit. Now usually I recommend you titling the project the same thing as your event to keep things easy. So we see here the sandwich project is in the sandwich event. We can also see what project we're working on here. One common problem many students has is they go to a different event, as I will do here, and go to the TINU event, and they're confused that they don't see the corresponding project. They'll say, Mr. Wilson, our project is gone. No, look here, this is still the sandwich project. If you want to go to the TINU project, you have to double click on the TINU project here. As you can see, you can have more than one project in an event, though that is a bit rare. You might want to create a duplicate project in order to experiment with something and still have the original edit, or if one person in a group wants to edit something different, but again you want to keep the original edit. You can do this by control clicking on the project and selecting duplicate project, then rename it. Easy. But if you want to keep things organized and simple, avoid having more than a few projects in any event. So your projects are kept in your events, which are kept in your library. If you don't quite understand these 3 levels fully right now, that's okay. The more you work with Final Cut, the more you will understand and get comfortable with it. So we should all know that a big problem with our computers is that they have a very limited amount of space on the internal drive. So everything we ever import and work on with Final Cut will be on this LaCie drive, pronounced LaCie, not Lacey. Let's take a look at how we will manage our files and assets. On each drive, we should see only 4 folders unless Mr. Mayo and I decide to add another folder at some point. We have a music folder that contains over 1,000 pieces of music that you can use for your video. We have a Final Cut tutorial folder where you can find tutorials on how to do many things in Final Cut, like reverse, transform, and retime clips, edit your audio, make a mask, animate objects, use the keyer, green screen functions, etc. So we might tell you to look there to learn how to do something. Then there are the Wilson and Mayo folders. In each of those folders, there are folders for each of our classes. And when you are working on a computer, you will have a folder in your class with your name on it. The very first time you use that computer, you will create a folder, file new folder, that is named after you. Let's say James W. And then in Final Cut Pro, you will create a new library, file, new library. From here, you will click this arrow so we can get to the LaCie drive, go to the Wilson folder, go to the class folder, go to James's folder, and then make sure we don't have an untitled library, but we call it your name. We save it into your folder, and now you have your own Final Cut library. From now on, you will never open up Final Cut by clicking on the Final Cut icon in your dock. Instead, you will open it up by going to your library, which of course you can see has the 4-star icon. When you first start a new library, there has to be at least one event in it. So by default, it gives you an event with the date. Rename that event to whatever your first event or project will be. You don't want to have an event called a random date that will just confuse you. So if you have one and there is a project in it, rename the event. If you have one and there's nothing in it, delete that event. Once you've created or renamed an event, you need to create a new project in that event called the same thing as your event. File, new project. Call it the same thing, click OK, and now we have the project, which is up here and is the actual timeline down here. Then you need to import your footage. But in order to be sure that you will not lose your footage, you will need to create another folder in the folder with your name on the LaCie drive. File, new folder. And call that folder the same name of your event. Then you will import your footage into this folder. So if it is from an SD card, I recommend doing it this way. Once your SD card is inserted into the computer, you will find it on the desktop like this. It will usually be named the number letter of the SD card, like this one, 5C. Double click it to open it up and you will see 2 or perhaps 3 folders, but the one we want is the DCIM folder. So double click on that and you will see folders that look a bit like this. Now these folders are where your video clips are, and they should have the date where they were shot over here, unless the camera is not set up with the correct date, which you should bring to our attention so we can adjust the camera. When you think you have found your folder, double click on it and you will see all the clips that were shot on that date. An easy way to make sure that you have the correct clips is using the preview function, which you do by hitting Command Y. This is a hugely helpful shortcut as it doesn't have to open an application, so it's much faster, and you can do the same thing with any type of file. Click on a document and hit Command Y and it will preview it, or a music file, or an image file. Any type of file can be previewed by hitting Command Y. You can hit Command A to select all of the clips in that folder. If all of those clips are not yours, make sure you're only selecting the clips that belong to you. Then you click, hold, and drag it into the folder that you created for your project. In this case, the TNoob folder. Then again, you select all, click, hold, and drag it into your event, and now you have all your files in Final Cut. Everything, all your clips and your library now live on the C drive and not on the computer. Once you have a folder and a library on any of these drives, you should try to use that same computer and drive, though if it's not available, you can use another one. But you will have to create a new folder with your name on it and a new library with your name in that folder, etc. Another note, we should always know where our files are on the computer or drive. I will often ask my students, where does this file live? And they say, I don't know. First of all your asset files should be in your folder in the LaCie drive. But there are other places where a file can be, but also places files can't live. A file can be on your desktop, in your download folder, in your document folder, or as all your assets in your folder on the LaCie drive. But many students tell me their file is in the Finder. No, the Finder is not a place, it is an application to help find files and applications on the computer. Your files are also not in Recents. That is not a place, it's just a place where we can see recently opened files. This is just to say that you should always know where your files are, and the answer will never be in the Finder or in Recents. The most important thing to remember is never import files onto the actual computer, only onto the LaCie drive. We will be wiping the computers every 2 weeks, so if you do not do this correctly, you will lose all your work, and that is on you. The first 2 or 3 times you do this, get Mr. Mayo or Mr. Wilson to help you, because you will not remember all of this until you have done it or seen it a few times. Also, drives can be moved from one computer to another, but only Mr. Mayo and Mr. Wilson can do that, so ask them before moving anything. So remember, don't import your own footage until you are positive you know what you're doing. Until then, ask Mr. Mayo or Mr. Wilson for help.